Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Cruz.
This is Bryce Vine.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This
East.
is Sebastian Younger.
This is Daryl Ames.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
This is Dr. Bob Greenberg.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner. Hi, this is Don Randi, and welcome to the Break It Down show, and I'm very happy to be here with you guys.
And now, the Break It Down show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
Well, we're very happy to have you. For our listeners, Don Randi is a keyboardist whose discography is a who's who of music in the 20th century. James Brown, Frank Zappa, Nancy Sinatra as well. Frank Zappa, Lou Rawls, Linda Ronstadt, the Beach Boys, Phil Spector, and the hundreds of hit records he produced. We're talking about the cream of the crop. He was one of the A-list of studio musicians known collectively as the Wrecking Crew. Shout out to our friend Danny Tedesco. And he's written a memoir called You've Heard These Hands. And if you've ever owned a radio or a television, you certainly have heard these hands. And those hands and their keeper are having breakfast with us here at Aroma in Los Angeles. And Don, I'm beside myself. It's amazing to meet you and amazing to talk with you. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me here.
I'm excited to listen to your new album, Good Jazzy Vibrations.
Yeah, incidentally, Brian Wilson loved that album because we did a lot of the Beach Boy tunes a little differently because of the jazz influence, and he got a big kick out of it. Yeah.
You got to change mics, Pete.
It's funny. You remind me of a story. I got in a big scene with one of the most famous guys of Lionel Newman. Who was the head of music at Paramount for years, and his brother was the other Newman who scored The Robe, and he was in charge of all the music being done. His nephew was Randy Newman.
Okay.
And I had worked with Randy on and off, and he called me to come in to do this a show called, what was it, Judd for the Defense. It was a television show. And it was one of Randy's first scoring, you know.
Yeah.
And he was giving Randy, Lionel Newman was giving Randy a terrible time right from the get-go. And, you know, I never work out there. You know, I'm a double-scale musician, and they're pissed off at that because it's a movie call, and they have to pay me double, and they don't even know who I am.
Yeah.
And I don't know who Lionel Newman is. And he's so that's how the story started. And we're sitting there, and it's not going well at all.
Oh, boy.
And they asked us to take a 10-minute break, which we do, and took the break and came back. And when we came back, we put the phones on. And the click track that we were going to work to came on excruciating loud. I mean, it was like a knitting needle going through your brain, you know. And I went, oh, and I just grabbed it and took it off. And Lionel Newman, who was standing there, turns around and said, who said that? I said that. He says, you know, you're on a score. And he started to really go
admonish
at me.
You.
Yeah. And I looked at him and I said, nobody talks to me like that. Screw you, you know. He says, I want that guy off the lot. And he kicked me off the date, and I wouldn't get up till the contractor gave me my W-2, you know.
Nice.
And he wasn't on the set, on the soundstage. And that drove him even more berserk because he's supposed to be there.
Right.
But they're doing 2 and 3 different shows, so he's running from, you know, greed, you know.
Yeah.
And he finally, I had to leave. It was angry words. Everybody sat quiet. And he took me to the union. He was going to take me, and I said, okay, we'll have this out.
We'll fight that one out.
And now I find out who this guy Lionel Newman is, and I kind of feel bad about it, but not that bad. I start getting calls from musicians that have worked at Paramount for years under him, telling me, Don, thank you very much. Thank you. And
finally.
Everybody was so afraid to be.
comeuppance.
Oh, yeah. And Artie Kane, I remember, marvelous piano player and composer, sent me a thing with 5 stars on it. And he never did take me to the union when he found out that he was up Schitt's Creek, you know.
Yeah. So whatever happened to Lionel Newman?
He finally passed away. He very, very, you know, had control of everything.
Yeah.
You know, he was the head guy at Paramount in the music department. So There you have it.
He was used to bossing people around.
Oh, forever, for 20 years.
Yeah. Wow.
And his brother was completely opposite, and his brother was the main guy. He was the composer. One of my favorite movie scores to The Robe, that movie, The Robe.
Huh.
Jesus, brilliant score.
I've
Brilliant.
never heard that. I'll have to listen. It's called The Robe.
It's a wonderful,
tap that
wonderful
in my
score.
notes.
It's a lesson, actually.
Don, when I get to the point where I'm bossing everybody around, I want you to just give me the high sign. Let me know, like, hey, you're here, man. Cut it out.
Gotta humble him.
You know, you got to give me the cut it out sign because I'm not going to hear it from anybody else. I'm just going to let everybody have it all the time. And then I need you just to give me the nod.
I have a guy that I work for every once in a while from the Philippines.
Uh-huh.
And
And he's going to come in
he's
and stab
hilarious.
me in my left cheek or
No,
something.
no, he's one of the gentle. I call him the gentle giant, because he'll go and then realize nobody really cares, and he's just ranting.
Yeah. So the book, you've heard these hands.
Yes.
It's amazing that we are getting now the account of something that there was no account of at the time, which was that you guys were playing on these thousands and thousands of practically everything on TV and on the radio.
That's very true. And in the very beginning, they didn't give us credit.
Yeah.
There was no album credits. Nobody did anything like that.
Yeah.
So most people didn't know. And I think the record companies did it because they didn't want the audiences to know that the kids
artist wasn't
playing on the records. Yeah. I mean, we had 3 hits in a row with Dino, Desi, and Billy.
Uh-huh.
Most people don't even remember who they were. They were kids.
Yeah.
They couldn't play. And Lee Hazelwood, wrote and produced a lot of their stuff. Later on, Phil Spector and said, I want everybody's name on the thing. He was one of the originators of that, and then Brian Wilson, too.
Okay.
And that kind of forced...
Thank you, Phil and Brian.
Yeah, no kidding.
Kind of forced the major labels to start doing that, too.
Well, what it also did was it changed album notes as we know them.
For sure.
Yes.
And I know that now, like you said, we're going to go talk to JR a little later today, and he's got a show called Vinyl Night that he does that we always want to plug, where he just grabs a vinyl record and he plays it for you, and he gives his thoughts on it and explores the beauty of vinyl and the tactile experience of getting a record. And the first thing that guys like us do is we flip the record over and we see who played on it.
Yeah.
And see who was involved. And then you hear the sonic signatures, and now you can go back, and if you're lucky and you know the material enough, you can sort of pick out some things that remind you of certain players, but all of that is lost information because I know we'd want to go back to those records.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me,
I had a hell of a time figuring out anything that you played on. Artists that you played on, yes. When I cobbled your intro together, I could come up with artists from here to,
Yeah, sure.
But not a lot of specific records that you played on.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, it's a double-edged sword for me, and I have a story that you'll appreciate. When I was going to school, I had to support myself to go to school.
Okay.
So I worked for a company called California Record Distributors. California Record Distributors distributed all the East Coast jazz, all the West Coast jazz, and then they had a classical line called Westminster. And they were incredible. They were the busiest independent, purveyor of records for other record companies. They were like a distribution center.
Uh-huh.
I was the stock boy. Now, here's where the rub comes. I had to take all the returns, which were warped records, scratched records, and the distributor had to eat that. They had to absorb that.
Okay.
And that was my job, and I'd see how much waste was going. So for me, and I always looked at it, as I was the happiest guy in the world when CDs came out. Because that meant there was no more returns. I didn't have to do that.
Wow. So wait a minute.
And CDs came out way later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was with the company for a while, and when I heard about that,
Yeah. You still
I
felt
got fired.
Felt a bit of relief.
Right before all that happened, I would have never had that problem.
Wow.
But now the other rub is I get a call from Capitol to come in and reproduce a bunch of albums for CD
Wow.
that they were transferring from albums to CDs. And they wanted me to help reproduce. And I'm sitting there
what
watching.
What do you mean reproduce?
I'll tell you. Reproduction is they think they're making a better record than the record was.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
I'm
this is
standing
the
there
problem.
listening to an old Nat King Cole, who I absolutely adore, trio.
Yes.
And they're redoing.
Boy, what a piano player he was.
Oh, incredible. He's one of my influences. And great singer.
And right.
Yeah.
And I'm listening, and there's the guitar player in the trio has a squeak, and I'm watching the guy.
He's trying to tune out the squeak.
He did.
Ah.
And then I hear Nat King Cole say, he breathes in, oh, I can get that. And I said, why are you doing that? He said, well, we have all this great equipment. I said, yeah, but that's part of the
That's
record.
the life
This
of
is
the record.
It's the room ambiance. It's everything that's happening. And he's looking at me like I'm from Mars. You know? And I said, no, you can't do that. We've been doing it all. I got up and I walked out. I said, I can't do this. And that was it. I walked out of the sound room and I let them know I did not want that job.
Yeah.
And it was great money, you know.
Can you tell our audience the difference between reproducing and remastering? Because a lot of the things that come back remastered are brilliant.
Because they have new technology now. Mm-hmm. And they can equalize and bring up certain things that they couldn't do before.
Yeah.
You know, and they didn't have the capability. And now with all the new technology, they do have that. They can make strings sound what strings should sound like.
Yeah.
Much more naturally.
Right.
Whereas before you had to really dig for it, which I also liked that version also.
Sure.
But Bones Howe is a perfect example. If you looked how Bones Howe had the mics, everything open, the piano was open, how did he get all that great sound and great records, you know? Everything was, he recorded a little differently than most guys.
Yeah.
Some guys had to have everything, you know, covered. The piano had to be covered over. They didn't want any leakage from any other microphones. Some people know how to work with that leakage and make everything blend in.
Yeah, and make it a living, breathing thing.
The Wall of Sound, all those records we did for Phil Spector.
Sure, because you guys were recording to 2-track. And you had like 18 guys.
One track?
How about one track?
One track.
Mono, you know, how did you get all that music on one track? You know?
Yeah.
I remember
smash it together in one room,
Tommy
huh?
Tedesco and I are sitting together, and Tommy says, this is when 8-track came out.
Yeah.
He said, what are they going to do with all those tracks? You know, and God bless him. He, you know, it went on and on, of course, and now there is no tracks. It's infinity. You know?
Right. There's no limit.
There's no limit.
When was the first time that you were on a session and you played something and you thought to yourself, this is a smash?
Oh, it's a number of times, but one of the early thing, well, the biggest kick I got up when we did, what was it? He's a Rebel with the Crystals.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. That was the first, you know, big record I played.
Yeah.
And within 30 days, we were doing other sessions. I wasn't working that much yet. And all of a sudden, I turned the radio on, and I played on that record.
Uh-huh.
And I got the biggest kick out of it. I still had my nightclub jazz gig. You know, I always kept that because I love to play live. And that was one of the first thrills I got. But an interesting story, I just did this 2 nights ago. They had a fundraiser out at the Canyon Club. And they did a bunch of Beach Boy tunes, and I joined them. The Honeys, I don't know if you remember the Honeys. Marilyn, who was married to Brian in the early days, we had a number of hit records with the Honeys, and Brian produced them.
Uh-huh.
And Ginger and Marilyn, they sang Help Me Rhonda.
Okay.
The reason I told you that is when I played Help Me Rhonda, we went in, and it was a Beach Boys record, but everything was ready to go. I mean, the everything was written out. Brian didn't have to explain anything. I mean, he said, and he couldn't stop smiling, and we went in, and I think we knocked it out. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 takes. And after I just sat there for a second, I said, holy mackerel, this is not a number 1 record. I don't know how to tell, you know.
Wow.
And it was. The story goes on. About 3 years ago, Leon is playing someplace in Leon Russell.
Uh-huh.
Is playing someplace, and we hadn't seen each other in about 25 years. And he's looking, he says, Don? I said, yeah. He says, so after the show, we went and hung out in his van for about 3 hours. And he smiled and looked at me.
You and Leon Russell hanging out in a van.
Well, he was one of the wrecking crew in the beginning.
absolutely.
He just, he used to sub for me on my jazz gig.
Okay.
He could play bebop. He was a good jazz player. Most people didn't know that. Well, he could always play that funky blues. He was scary.
Yeah.
Amazing. So he says, I played on Help Me Rhonda. I said, no, you didn't. I did. He says, I did the original. I said, no, you didn't. I did the original. They had done that a couple of years before, and Leon had played on it when we did Help Me Rhonda. And that's when Brian was arguing with his father, and his father hated it.
Yeah.
And they pulled it.
Come on.
Yeah. So afterwards, Brian finally had an opportunity when he was on his own. He did it again. If you listen to the Smile album, there's 2 different versions on it.
Wait, I just want to cut in
Yeah.
advice for our listeners and for our guest co-host, Niko. If it comes to artistic choices, don't listen to your fucking father.
Well, listen, thank God I wasn't there when I think his name was Murray when he was around. Hal told me he was a real monster.
Yeah.
He was not nice. Unfortunately, that happened so many times.
Yeah.
Joe with the Jacksons.
With the Jacksons, yeah. When you're raising a bunch of...
Well, we did our big shows in Vegas,
Yeah.
and Nancy Sinatra, that was a full orchestra. There was sometimes 30 men on stage backing up everybody.
Yeah.
And we had the Osmonds. They had become popular doing their show. And I forget which one of the Osmonds. It wasn't Donnie. He was too young, but it was one of the older brothers. Started to, they could dance.
Yeah.
They were great. Bopped it out a little too much. And when the show, after that number, I saw his father pointing at him, and he grabbed him and he pinched his arm so hard I wanted to smack him. And they made him go in and they had a Bible reading.
Wow.
Between shows. We had 2 shows that night. And he read the riot act to them. There you are, reading the Bible.
If you ever want to win a bet someone on the number of albums that the Osmonds, not Donnie and Marie, but the Osmond brothers sold, and it's it's like 70 million now.
They were monsters. They were like the other version of the Jackson 5.
Yeah. They sold so many albums. It's crazy. For a long time, they'd sold more albums than Jay-Z had. For a long time.
They were entertaining, and they were wonderful kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was?
But there's an argument for. I mean, I remember one time, in San Francisco, I was on the ferry, and I saw some friends on the ferry that I saw on there all the time because I was a commuter, and we were talking about Joe Jackson for whatever reason. Maybe it had a birthday or something, but for whatever reason, he had come up, and I just kind of threw in there like, that's he's estranged, and his kids don't like him. So what good is that? And one woman who was there said, he may have been a son of a bitch, but he didn't want his kids to grow up in Gary, Indiana. And there was one way for him not to do that. And he got him that one way. So there's the argument that, that in a situation like that, you got this domineering father who's, if he left his kids alone, they'd probably be well balanced. But they might not be great performers.
Yeah, but you said the right word. They might not.
Yeah.
See, now I choose to go the other way. When I played on ABC, Michael sat next to me at the piano, and Mr. Randy, can you show me what you just did? And I'm showing him. and in about 20 seconds, he could play it better than I could. And he was not a pianist, really.
Yeah.
But he was so musical.
Musical.
There was no way he could have. Nobody could have ever.
Could not have been contained. Is what you're saying.
No. And you talk to Jermaine or the kids. He was not nice.
Yeah.
He just was not. And I think his wife was afraid to say anything a lot of times.
Sure.
Because she feared his monstrosity.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, she had to be on the receiving end of it as well.
Is it fair, though, to say that as those guys came up, Mozart's dad isn't known for being nice to Mozart? Is that just because there's not a whole lot of know-how to do that? Like, how do you build special kids into performers? I mean, you don't want to be abusive, and that's obviously the wrong part, but...
Well, that goes. You can go take that as far as you want to go.
Yeah.
Because it's the door is wide open on that. It has to deal with performance and performance and performance and performance. If somebody gets a chance to perform and get better, that's why I love live music.
Yeah.
That's why I love the baked potato. It gives new artists a chance, and it gives people a chance to see somebody. I don't know if you've ever been to South by Southwest.
Yes. Austin, Texas.
You'll hear some of the worst bands going from one room to another room. And
some of those bands get signed, by the way.
Wait a second. I was just getting to that. You beat me to it.
Oh, sorry.
And then you'll go in the club right after that worst band you've ever heard.
Yeah.
There's a band that just blows you away.
Yeah.
Just blows you away. And they get signed exactly as what you said.
Yeah.
But they got that opportunity. Now, I was back following year, and I heard one of those bands, and they sounded incredible. They were not good the first time I heard them, but they had that opportunity.
And they came back. They did their miles.
If you keep doing it, keep doing it, and you do get better.
Yeah.
And if you don't get better, you become a gas station attendant.
Yeah.
Right.
You
do
also get
something else.
access to people that want to put time into your getting better.
Sure.
Like the Dodgers are going to spend a lot, and they're just over the hill here, but they're going to spend a lot of money on bringing in a lot of young guys. But it's on those young guys to figure out the day-to-day. And then once you reach a certain level, like now we're going to invest real coaching money into you and elevate your game the rest of the way.
And then you go take the Dodgers, a good example. They'll find ball players that they think is going to be great.
Right.
And they nearly destroy the team.
Yeah.
Right.
Steve Sachs.
Oh, my gosh.
Second baseman who made an average ground ball into an adventure.
A total adventure. Yes.
We would go to the games. We were very fortunate to know Nancy Sinatra. I was a musical director for a year. So we got the Sinatra seats when they couldn't go, or we'd go with Nancy. And it's right behind first base.
Yeah.
And you'd be waiting, and there would be a ground ball to Steve Sachs, and he'd pick it up. 2 different times I had to jump in front of my wife.
God.
The ball went over to first base, right into
And
where
this
we
is
were
the throw
sitting.
from second.
You know what is?
I mean, I played baseball when I was a kid. If you can't make a throw
From second.
There's a hilarious story that Tommy Lasorda tells, because Tommy was the coach at the time, and Pedro Guerrero, they were trying to figure out where to get his bat into the lineup. They were like, let's try third base. And so he's out there playing, and he can't do it any better. And so Tommy's like, when the ball is hit, you have to think, I want it to get hit to me. What are you thinking? He's like, don't hit it to me. He's like, well, what's your next thought? Don't hit it to Sachs.
There you go.
I mean, second base is a different thing because the one time, Niko's here, but I'm going to tell a Niko story. One time, Niko was playing left field, and he saw a guy who, for whatever reason, made him creep up because he thought maybe he might hit one in the 6 hole. And he told the shortstop, who at the time was Jake Valley, shout out to Jake Valley, if one gets through the 6 hole, I'm getting this guy at first base. So one got through the 6 hole, and Niko let it fly, and he did not get him at first base. But he threw the ball into the parking lot, and he made the statement that you can't hit one into left field and jog because the throw beat him. It just was 20 feet higher than the first baseman.
Yeah,
So that's one thing when you're trying to let fly from shallow left or from third base or even from shortstop. But from second, you ought to be able to get that one to your first baseman.
Don't even throw it hard. Just throw it.
Just get it there.
Well, they had psychiatrists with him and everything. He went through 2 years until he finally left the Dodgers.
Yeah.
So I'm a big Dodger fan. I never was. I grew up in New York, and I was a Yankee fan.
Sure.
And I came out to California, and then the Dodgers came out. We would root for the Giants before we would root for the Dodgers.
Thank you. I root for the Giants before I root for the Dodgers, too. But I don't not root for the Dodgers because we got a lot of friends there.
They are good hosts.
And they're great hosts, and they've taken great care of us. And,
our
friend DJ Severe's over there,
that's
too.
my outlet. My music is fantastic for me.
Yeah.
But if I want to get away from music, it's
You go to a
sporting.
ball game. Yeah.
I'm a football fan.
Yep.
I'm a basketball fan, baseball fan, hockey. I'll go to.
Have you been watching
Whatever
World
it
Cup
is.
at all?
Yeah.
Pardon?
Whatever it is, huh?
Let me tell you, when I played in San Francisco, which is, I guess, 1962 and 1963, at the Executive Suite, on California.
Uh-huh.
My biggest fan was a guy who I knew since he's 17.
Uh-huh.
And we were very good friends.
And Willie Mays.
His name was Will Chamberlain.
Will Chamberlain.
You aren't the only person to say that on this show.
Yeah.
Will would be at the Executive Suite all the time.
Okay.
And we would hang together. And he hated the coach, who was Alex Haddam.
Uh-huh.
And Alex Haddam got traded. The coach got traded at the end of the season to Philadelphia. Wilt was the happiest guy in the world.
Yeah.
And guess what?
Yeah.
He
They
got traded to
Philadelphia. And they won the championship that year.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good ending to that story. The other guy who's been on the show who actually would house sit for Wilt when he was on the road was a guy named Jeff Traeger, who was a local record promoter in the area. He worked at the Jack Tar Hotel. So Wilt used to go in there, and before long, they established a friendship where he said, "Why don't you come watch my house?" And so whenever Wilt was gone, Traeger would go over and watch his house. He would drive his Bentley and all this stuff. But Jeff Traeger's probably 5'3". So everything that he had that was Wilt's, he had to, had to squeeze.
And
he said like they would play one-on-one.
When Wilt finally, he built a home in Bel Air. He designed it. It was all based on triangles. It was absolutely gorgeous. So my wife and I got invited to the house opening and with a bunch of people, and where he says, "Don, I got to show you something," and I didn't realize it. I just watched him go to 2 rooms, and I got it. He didn't have to lower his head.
Wow!
Everything
He
was
could
built
go
for him.
everywhere.
He'd come
he
in the
wanted.
baked potato. This is in the early 70s, and he'd walk right past me, and right where we played, there's a thing that goes that's lower. It's about 1.5 foot lower than any other parts of the club.
Yeah.
And he'd wait to the last second. He'd get there and then drop down and go under it.
Yeah.
And I kept
And
waiting to
scare
hear
the hell out of everybody. And he never did it because he knew exactly where that thing was.
Exactly.
His awareness of the court was better than everybody else's.
Sure, he had good. Him and Jerry West had the greatest peripheral vision of anybody.
Sure,
I mean,
man.
That makes sense.
you know, you can. Magic was another one with that.
Yeah.
You know, it's always amazing to me when you see it.
They
It's
have
like the sixth
not
sense
just-
of a cat.
Yeah.
Right, and that's not just vision, it's a sense of space and speed. So you can see really well, but
Sure.
also like I know
He's
even though you're
understanding
behind me,
steps beyond.
yeah, like here comes James Worthy. I know he's going to be there, and then I'll throw the ball,
Oh,
and
sure.
you're anticipating the anticipation.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. And it's one of. And you talk about performance. How can a guy
Yes.
be so great one day and the next day?
Yeah,
I'll give you a perfect musical analogy. You have a great band that you play with. It's your band, and everybody is cohesive.
yeah,
And they know what they're doing, and you don't have to say anything. They just, the anticipation part is so important. And you'll be playing, and that band will be grooving, and I mean, you just feel there is no greater moment in life than when everything is happening so perfectly, and you're playing for a packed house audience, and then you finish, and the audience is hardly any applause.
yeah.
Then another night you'll be playing the shittiest fucking anything, and you're bouncing off the wall, so to speak, and the audience is loving everything.
And you're killing
Yeah.
them.
And so what are you going to do? How you going to
Yeah.
argue with them?
No, you
shouldn't
don't.
be applauding tonight.
What are you guys doing? I wanted to ask, since you are a sports fan and you've seen a lot of sports over the years, this conversation about LeBron James being like the best player of all time. Well, you've seen Shaq, you've seen Wilt, you've seen all these guys that
And
have come
Kobe.
through. Yeah, and Kobe and Michael.
Let me
Do
just
you-
interject.
Yeah.
Pete is asking this question of Don Randi, the guy who Leon Russell subbed for.
Yes.
Take it away.
No, but I'm curious what you think, because it's one thing to say, like, I've never seen even Michael Jordan and say, oh, LeBron James is the best. I'm not saying LeBron James is not the best, but you've actually seen how great Wilt was in comparison to the great players. What do you think?
Well, what I think probably really doesn't mean a hill of beans.
Yeah, but it's
It
going
does
to be
on our show.
It's going to be interesting.
But let me tell you, after watching, you know, I think what Wilt did was amazing because of, well, he was the first really big guy.
Yeah.
And he could use his strength and his ability.
Yeah, it came with agility.
You know, he could do it. Nobody's going to score over 100. Kobe
Yeah.
came close.
Yeah.
Right.
But, you know, it's still a lot when you score 100
Even when
points.
you come close, though, you're coming close because you know that Wilt's in front of you.
That's right.
You know, you're chasing that mark.
I think LeBron is an incredible player. He's
Yeah.
probably one of the greatest.
Sure.
And,
For
that's,
sure.
and that's enough for me, you know.
Yeah. We agree with you.
You know, I think he's. I can't wait to go see him play.
Yeah.
You know,
LeBron to the Lakers.
that was the thing when Wilt was there. all I had to do was pick up the phone.
Oh, yeah.
I said, we're
How
coming
nice is
tonight, and the
that?
tickets would be. And then the hockey games, we had a real racket going. One of our guys, Bob Silver, who worked for us on our door, he was a great songwriter and singer. He'd make a deal for the Kings ticket to sing the national anthem. And that's how we got free tickets.
Wow. And they always need someone to sing it.
Yeah.
Hey, but you got to the point where you could pick the phone up and Wilt would leave tickets for you at will call and you could walk in.
Yeah.
And that's impressive.
Yeah.
But even more impressive is when you can go in there and you've done it so many times that the lady at will call goes, I don't know why they're not here. Why don't you just come in?
Yeah. That would have been great.
Yeah.
They always were there, though,
Yeah.
He was such a cool guy.
Well,
listen, and then sitting at the Dodger games in the Sinatra seats is no thing. And Tommy, as Nancy called Tommy Lasorda, Tommy Lasagna.
Because you can't.
And Tommy would always come over and have a little chat.
Say
Whoever
hi.
was there, say hi.
Yeah.
So it was fun. It was such a treat.
Well, sure, and then you're sitting in the seats, so he's got to come over and say hi to you as well, acknowledge.
And when Willie Davis played for the Dodgers, he was really a good buddy.
Yeah.
Really, really talented. He blew it. My wife made 4 different appointments for him to meet with agents, and he had that great low-speaking voice. He would have been perfect for commercials.
Yeah.
Especially when you call up.
What a retirement gig.
And he didn't go to any. 4 different times he didn't show up. So he said, that's it.
Yeah.
You can lead a horse to water.
Don't tell him to come to our house anymore.
One of the things that is great about Tommy Lasorda's era as the Dodgers is he wasn't just a manager. He was like the nightclub greeter. He was. Everybody was welcome.
Social.
Yeah. And the game has gotten a little more corporate. Not that that's good or bad, but it's different.
I was at the game.
Yeah.
When Gibson hit that home run.
Oh, my God.
That was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, there he goes limping around.
Yeah.
And
he basically didn't play well for the next 18 months from that swing to the next time he really was able to, play. Yeah. It's an incredible thing. I listened to Vince Scully's call of that couple innings.
Miss him.
Oh, yeah. He was incredible. I like what Joe Davis has actually been on the show.
I almost killed Vince Scully. I'm going to tell you that story later. But I want to spin back, though, because I don't want to leave the topic of the baked potato.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Because it's a club here in L.A. that's been around for decades, and it's really been home base for you.
Yes, it has.
This episode of the Break It Down Show is brought to you by Lions Rock Productions.
That's us.
We publish, evaluate, and develop podcasts just like this one, consult others to build their own, and create associated content and content marketing strategies.
So if you're launching or expanding your social media presence, your business or your personal brand, or if you just want to take your media presence to the next level,
reach out to us on Twitter
at Pete A. Turner
or at JohnLG69
at the Break It Down Show.
There's 1,000 ways to get a hold of us.
Now enjoy the show.
Did you know Monty Stickles by any chance?
No.
Monty ended up doing the radio of San Francisco 49ers, but he played for the 49ers. He was a wide receiver.
Huh.
Wow. A great guy. And him and a tackle who played for Philadelphia and then later for the Rams, I think, Lou Corleone.
Okay.
And then another guy by the name of Don Chewy. They would come in when they were all together in San Francisco to the executive suite, and they could get it on pretty good with the booze.
Wow.
Jesus. One night a guy approached Monty Stickles and Lou Corleone and just kept aggravating. And these are 2 big guys.
Yeah.
And you're not so big, and you're not so this, and he was drunk. And they kept going back and forth, and we had just taken a break, and I'm chatting with Monty and Lou, and this guy keeps trying to, and finally the guy stood up and went like this. Big mistake.
Yeah.
Lou got behind him, and Monty, and they ripped his suit off him. He was in a suit.
God.
They just went
I ripped his suit right off.
right down to his.
Like he was a stripper.
He's in the skivvies. Yeah, he had to tear away.
And this guy was like, what just happened? What did I do? You could see the look on it. It was, I mean, if you filmed it, it couldn't have been better. Had an actor do that.
Well, I don't want to get too far away from the baked potato, though, because we keep digressing. We are the kings of digression.
Yes.
Really, we could have called our show the Kings of Digression. Totally. The baked potato has been home base for you for a number of years now.
Yes.
40-something years.
Yeah.
What's going on there now?
Well, we have for me, I get the biggest kick out of seeing the kids of all these famous people, like Abraham Laborio.
Oh, yeah.
One of the great bass players.
Yeah.
Now, Abraham Laborio Jr.,
Little Abe, who's not so little.
He used to ride on my back and play horsey at the Baked Potato
Yeah.
while Abe was rehearsing with Greg Matheson and Mike Landau and those guys.
Yeah.
And to see these kids, and now, like for Junior,
Yeah.
he's
You want to talk about a fully developed player.
The drummer for Sir Paul, you know. And he's on everything he does. So it's kind of nice to see that. Lee Rittenauer's son is great. My favorite is Julian Coriel, Larry Coriel's son, who's now doing that Blood, Sweat, and Tears tour.
Oh, wow.
And he's singing and playing guitar in it. He's marvelous.
Terrific.
He's marvelous.
It's neat to see the kids of your generation of players.
Joe Sample's son, Nicky, is a great player,
Wendy Melvoin, Lisa Coleman.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, they're great.
Mike Melvoin was one of my favorite. Great accompanist, besides being a great jazz piano player.
Yeah.
I mean, he knew when to play and when not to play, which is an art.
How many sessions did you get to do together? You and either Mike Melvoin or Leon or
not
any
so
of the
much
other...
with Mike. A few with Mike, a lot with Leon.
Yeah.
But there was a guy by the name of Al DeLore. And definitely Larry Knechtel. Larry Knechtel was on a gigantic amount of dates.
Yeah.
And he also was part of a group called Bread.
Oh, yeah.
With David
Gates.
Yeah. And there's a perfect example of egos getting in the way. If they could have kept their egos apart, and they'd still be, and Larry would probably be alive today.
Oh, man.
They got in such fights, and that was the end of that. You know?
And they never really achieved really what they should have as a voice.
It was just starting, really.
Sure.
There you go, a perfect example. But Larry Knechtel was a piano player. Mike Melvoin.
Yeah.
Mike Rubini, another guy. Al DeLore, who ended up producing all of Glenn Campbell's big hits.
Right.
And these were all guys that were basically in the wall of sound because there were 4 and 5 of us sometimes. There were 4 and 5 guitar players.
Yeah.
2 basses. He would use an upright bass and a Fender, usually 1 drummer, and then a number of percussionists.
When you guys are all in that room together, and is there a need to know like who the master is in that? You guys are all so fantastic and pros, but is there someone that you guys all look at and go, that's the special one in our tight circle?
Well, for me, I always looked up to Tommy Tedesco.
Okay.
Tommy, to me...
It was Don. That's what everybody looked at.
Well, they're all going to point at each other. You're like,
let me tell you, I love players. Everybody... Tommy, though...
Tommy, yeah, for sure.
He could read, as we say, fly shit on a piece of music.
Yeah.
He was that good.
Yeah.
But he also was great at the bullshit parts. I don't know if you've seen the film The Wrecking Crew.
Sure.
You know what? I saw... Actually, I'll tell you, I met you at the screening in Santa Cruz.
Oh,
which
yeah.
was one of the very first screenings.
Yes.
And you and Carmi did the Q&A afterwards.
Sure. Yeah.
That's where you and I met.
Well,
and John was at the last screening.
And yes, the very last screening before Denny turned the film over to Magnolia.
Yeah. Wow.
Was
Episode
at Solano
6.
College.
Yeah.
No, that was at Solano College.
No, but I'm saying episode 6, I think, was that.
Oh, that was episode 6
I think
of
it
our
was
show.
My granddaughter,
that was a while back.
My granddaughter Savannah is first chair cello at Santa Cruz
Okay.
University.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. She's also studying forensic medicine. She starts the doctor
good
part
hedge.
now.
Yeah.
She's been working for that coroner for almost a year and a half already.
Wow.
2 days a week, 3 days a week.
What do you think about splitting specialties like that?
Well, some people can do it, some people can't. So
Yeah.
A lot of people say, how do you manage having the baked potato all those years and
Yeah.
running? Not easy, because
Yeah.
musicians shoot themselves in the foot over and over and over again.
Sure.
They mean well, but they don't understand the business ethics of everything. Speaking of business ethics, there was a teacher, of all places, at Murfreesboro, Tennessee, at Tennessee, I think it's Tennessee State. I can't.
Yeah, South Tennessee State or something in Murfreesboro.
Yeah, and their music department there is probably one of the best in the United States.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this guy did not teach the music part. I went and sat in his class, and all he taught was music business.
Wow.
And I went there, I went, oh, my God.
If there had only been.
That's right. Did
Yeah.
these kids realize what he's telling them? I mean, in 20 minutes, I said, had I known that, I'd be in a lot better shape I am now.
Wow.
Things you give away because you're emotionally involved with your craft.
Yeah.
You want to be successful and you want to play. And how do I achieve that? Do I have to give the publishing away?
Yeah.
Do I have to split the writing? How much royalty should I take if it's an independent company? Should I give them a break?
Yeah.
But
meanwhile, you're thinking, it's a nice thing to do. I'll just do it this once because they'll give me more
There
work.
you go. And what you don't realize is that all that stuff is negotiable.
Yeah. And it all adds up, too.
Oh, are you kidding? I'll tell you a great Elvis Presley story. Did a lot of sessions with Elvis, not too much on records, mostly for film and television.
Huh.
The television show, the Elvis Presley Comeback Special, the 1968.
Yeah, all leather.
What a great show on NBC.
Back in Black.
About 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I can't remember exactly. I'm at home, and I go to my mailbox, and there's a check for $1,700. And I can't figure it out. It has something to do with Elvis, but I don't know who's paying it, what's going on, and is this a mistake? This is on a Tuesday.
Don Randi just gets a check for $1,700 on a Tuesday.
Listen to that. It's a great story. I get a call from Mike Deasy, who's a great guitar player, from Port Arthur, Texas. He says, Don, did you get a check today? Yeah. He says, should I cash it? I said, I don't know. I'm going to hold mine for a day. Hal calls me, and a few other people call me. Nobody can figure it out. Wednesday, there's a check for $1,400.
What?
The same thing, and we can't figure it out. Thursday, there's
this
another.
Show is called A Week in the Life of Don Randi.
There's another check for close to $2,000.
Wow, it keeps going up.
And on Friday, the string players it was a big orchestra on that 68 play. You know, it was horns or strings, and everybody's getting these same checks, and we can't figure it out. Finally, somebody noticed gaming. All it said was gaming. And where it ended up, some gaming company that makes jackpot machines, the slot machines in Las Vegas, couldn't get the rights of Elvis's stuff from Graceland. And they had a smart attorney who went to NBC and got the music rights from the 68 special,
so they could put the
it
thing
in
on
when
the,
you pull
on
the
slot
thing
machine.
on, and you'll hear Elvis singing.
Right. Wow.
And that's what it was. We all
and they
got
sidewinded
reused.
But in the meantime, you guys got paid.
We all made a fortune off that out of the clear blue sky from 1968 to 2014. You know,
it amazes me that there's someone that it's like, oh yeah, we got to make sure Don gets paid, and how? Where's that piece of paper that I filed?
There's a very good reason for that, because they were union contracts.
Okay.
Phil Spector insisted on union contracts. Brian Wilson insisted on.
Right.
Before
Once
they
again,
got away with murder, and then it forced a lot of other people to. We can't get away with that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's a guy who worked for the union. His name is Russ Wapinski. Russ lives in Washington, and he's found stuff shoved in closets that nobody even knew about. That's our residuals.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, an annuity for me was a little less conversation.
Right.
That one's been redone 5 times. You know, 5 times, 10 times.
Yeah.
So my $165 check over the years has been close to $5,000-$6,000. And when you're an old guy like myself, you go to the post office box and you have that check. It's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, and you're covered, so to speak, for that month.
And the good news is that A Little Less Conversation will be a hit once again at some point.
Oh,
that
sure.
song can't stop being a hit.
We just got another residual for These Boots Are Made for Walking.
Oh, sure.
They've done that in 9 million different places, and Ocean's 8 uses it.
That's right.
And I get it again. It's
Don
Nancy
got paid
Sinatra.
again.
You know.
That's terrific.
You know, so it adds up, and it makes you kind of proud that you were the guy that was there.
Yeah.
You know? And you can always, no one's going to turn down that money. You know, that's for sure.
No.
But there was records of it, so they can go back to it. And movie companies, if they don't have to pay, they won't pay.
No company, if they don't have to pay. Won't pay.
They'll try and get away with it.
Did you ever work with Louis Shelton?
He's going to be at the club in September.
Oh,
I just got off the phone with him.
Okay,
He's one of my favorite guitar players.
I'll tell you, we've been trading emails because now he lives in Australia,
Yes,
and
I know.
I've been trying to get him, and he said, "Yeah, I'll do it. Sounds great."
Yeah, he's a terrific guy.
I would. I think let's just stamp this now. We'll come back in September, and let's do a show with Louis at the Baked Potato.
He and I scored a film together.
Which one?
The robe. That's why you like it so much.
No, it was a movie with. I'll think of it in a minute.
Okay.
We got a chance to score that film.
Yeah.
And they tried to beat us out of the money. They said they had this budget, and it was so little, and it was for Columbia. Oh, what the hell's his name? He's been in a million films. Great actor. Anyway, he was the director and the actor in this thing. And I go to...
It was Ishtar. I'm just kidding.
Well, I go to Columbia, and there was a guy there by the name of Joni Taps. He was the head of the music department.
Yeah.
And I hand his secretary the contracts.
Uh-huh.
And she goes into Johnny, and she's in there 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and I'm sitting there, and finally she comes out, and she just looks at me. She says, "This is not enough." I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Johnny knows better." She hands me a whole bunch. She says, "Triple it."
Wow.
And this is from Louis Shaw. And we did. It was our composer's money and stuff like that. Larry Calden was one of the guitar players on this thing. Hoyt Axton.
Wow.
Or was it Hoyt or somebody played banjo for us?
Okay.
I want to say it was about another one of those things about a guy who's a roustabout cowboy and rodeo guy who gets out of prison.
Yeah.
And I almost had his name. Shit. But he goes...
Clint Eastwood.
No, Clint.
Okay.
Clint's a good big
Bronco
fan.
Billy, no.
Clint's a big fan of the baked potato.
Oh, good. Yeah.
He's there all the time. Big jazzer. Good
Big
guy.
Yeah.
I've
Plays
known
piano too, right?
Yes, a little bit.
Yeah.
Just enough to make millions.
Right. Or be dangerous.
But I remember when he was just a roustabout.
Uh-huh.
And he was before Rawhide. Remember he was in that series,
right.
Rawhide?
Yeah.
And we all used to go to a place called the Rain Check Room.
Uh-huh.
All the stunt guys, all the musicians and the singers was on Santa Monica because you could get the greatest meal in the city for $2.
Wow.
That chef in there was amazing.
Those were the days.
Oh yeah, it was wonderful, wonderful. But I also, Kyle, his son, played at the Baked Potato quite a few times.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'd love to get Scott on the show too. He's out acting and doing things. I don't know if he ever played at the Baked Potato, but that dude has Hollywood by the tail if he wants it.
Yeah, it's fun to hear him talk too because he'll say, I don't remember what movie it was, but he auditioned for something that his dad was directing, and the way that Clint Eastwood operates is he'll take a look at a tape. You got to make a tape. If he likes the tape, he'll call you. If he doesn't like the tape, you won't hear from him, and you can try again next time. I think he was on Rogan.
He was.
Scott Eastwood, and he said, "Yeah, so I had to send a tape in. You know, I couldn't just walk it up to my dad. I didn't want him to talk. You know, the way that he would talk about me if I tried to end around the process like that. So I did what everybody else does." And Rogan asked him, "So did you hear from him?" And he said, "No, he never called me."
That's funny.
Yeah.
We were watching, doing prep to talk to you. We were watching you talk about being up in New York and playing and talking with like Sugar Ray Robinson and all of these incredible guys. And you let Sugar Ray Robinson talked him into punching you.
Let me tell you, how did you get that story?
Well, you told it on the internet.
Okay, all right. That's so true. And I knew him when I was a kid. He'd come up to the Catskill Mountains and trade at Grossinger's,
right?
Or the Concord Hotel. And it was like the Pied Piper. I lived in a village. In the wintertime, there was 850 people.
Uh-huh.
And in the summertime, there was
150,000.
150,000. Oh, I mean,
wow.
all those bungalow colonies.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it was amazing. And it was like the Pied Piper. Sugar's here, and the kids would all come down. He had a pink Cadillac.
Yeah, of course.
And he would
he was good looking, and he was the champ.
He'd sit there for a couple of hours and say, "Now you keep your hands up this way." He loved kids. He just enjoyed teenagers and little kids so much.
Yeah.
And you could see it in his heart. You know, you knew it. So later on, one of our big shows that we did with Nancy Sinatra, incidentally, that show that Sugar was in, her brother Frank Jr. was in it. And so was the first time Muppets were going to be seen on national TV other than Sesame Street.
Wow. Wow.
And their show was, that the Muppets in that show was unbelievable. I made friends with Frank Oz, Jerry Henshaw, all of them. Yeah. They were such great guys. But Sugar roomed almost next to me.
Yeah.
When you work for the Sinatras, everybody gets their own rooms.
You got a ladybug on you. I'm just going to get the ladybug on. There we go.
They can, you're taken care of incredible, especially with Nancy. So now Sugar is walking down, and his wife, Sugar, yes, sweetheart. We're walking together. Did you take your cufflinks? Yes, sweetheart. A few more steps. Sugar, did you take your boat all the way down the hall till the elevator? She's making sure that Sugar remembered, And he's shaking his head. His eyes are a little baggy. Shut up, So we had been at the International Hotel in Vegas for 5 weeks. You talk about musicians going stir crazy. We didn't get a night off for 5 weeks.
Oh.
The orchestra did. They have a thing called the swing band. But her carry band, the rhythm section, had to be there every night. So in about the 4th week, we're standing backstage, and I said, come on, And he kept saying, Don, you don't want to go there. Don't. Just leave it. I said, come on, just. And we stopped. And right before we went on, I said, come on, just. And he went, bap, just like that. It hit me right here. Did you ever see those cartoons where the body just goes into
Yeah.
I thought my body was going to crack into a million pieces. And I just looked at him and went, like that. I mean, you could feel your whole body. Can you imagine?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Jesus.
Here's what I propose. I want you to punch me.
No.
I want to be one punch from Sugar Ray, and I also want to be able to say
1 degree.
Yeah, and I also want to be able to say, yeah, Don Randi, he punched me. We got to a restaurant, and he punched me. That would be awesome.
We were there in the summertime, and if you think it's hot today, in Vegas it's like 118 every day.
It's so hot, yeah.
And he would walk. He would walk the strip in Vegas down to downtown and back.
Wow.
And Frank actually...
He's I guess, the inspiration for Floyd Mayweather, because when he flies into Vegas, because he's got a house there,
yeah.
And when he flies into Vegas, he just runs from the airport to his house.
Sure.
Wow.
It's
hot as
it's
hotter
hot.
than a two-pecker goat out there.
Real dry heat,
Yeah.
Incidentally, you're probably sitting in the hottest day ever in Los Angeles today.
It's pretty hot.
Until tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow may be hotter.
Yeah.
But,
So we are...
You mentioned something about the piano.
Uh-huh.
And
we're going to talk about the piano with the great Don Randi, who's played on 10 million recordings that we all know and love.
You've heard these hands.
Yeah.
I never liked electronics. I fought it and fought it and fought it until I couldn't fight it anymore.
Yeah.
I love a Steinway B.
Okay.
And we had one at the club till I finally sold it because no one was playing it but me.
Sure.
And I also had it MIDI'd so that the Steinway could trigger synthesizers. It's called a Forte MIDI mod. And that was done to the piano.
Steinway's good at that kind of stuff.
Steinway B is still and the reason I got it is we were playing Chicago with my trio.
Yeah.
And I got to see Oscar Peterson at the London House. And that piano was a Steinway B. And I said, if I ever have my own place or whatever, I'm going to get a Steinway B.
Yep.
And that was the reason that the first thing that went in that thing before we even built it was that Steinway B. It sat there for almost a year, nobody playing it but me, till we opened up.
When you watched Oscar Peterson play, did you think that Steinway B was going to crumble in his hands like when Sugar Ray Robinson hit you in the chest?
No, I just knew that at any given time, the piano might lift off like a jet.
Yeah. Wow. Our friend Bob Greenberg's got a Steinway B in his house.
Oh.
And they are doing a great job nowadays with the technology to replicate performances. The player piano concept.
Yes,
they're applying to the Steinway B. What's that product?
The Spirio.
Called? The Spirio.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. Yamaha has.
Yeah.
And Yamaha also has a number of us that they sampled. They sampled myself, Joe Sample, a whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
And we didn't realize that at the time because
those bastards.
We were in Japan. And Yamaha was
and they
infamous
don't have
for
to
that.
tell you.
Oh,
yeah.
Try my new piano.
Right.
But listen, it happens. There's nothing really that much that you can do about it.
Well, let's look on the bright side. The world cannot have enough performance from guys like Joe Sample and Oscar Peterson and Don Randi. So it's kind of it's
Thanks for mentioning that same sentence is an honor.
It's kind of shitty that they grabbed your performance without telling you about it, but for posterity, the world needs as much of.
So when we started, the only thing that was around was the Fender Rhodes. before.
How did you feel about the Fender Rhodes?
I loved the sound of it because it was a nice electronic sound.
Right, and you could hit it.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it
could.
would respond to you.
But you always got that click a lot of times.
Yeah.
And then that got better. They sold it.
No,
and
I like the click.
Yeah, it was nice. It made it differently. It
It's like a rim shot on a piano.
almost, yeah.
Yeah.
And you can check the vibratos were smooth, and that's what when they sold it when it became Rhodes.
Yeah.
It was okay for a little while, and then Rhodes went digital with the insides,
Right.
with all the algorithms and logarithms. So instead of it being like in the original Fender Rhodes, when you put that stuff on, it was like a light dimming and getting brighter and
Came to
coming back.
life.
It was so smooth. Once they went digital, it became square.
Yeah.
So it's not the same. It's different. So a lot of guys that bought the Fender Rhodes, there was a guy by the name of Doug Walraven out in Newbury Park. He would find the old parts. They'd bring the brand new piano in. He'd take out that thing and put in the old part.
And put the old part in.
And it worked great.
Awesome.
I had it done to 2 pianos.
Yeah.
So there were things. And then once the synthesizers started coming, they get very close now. The Roland virtual piano where they have a Steinway B, Yamaha 9-footer. They have Bosendorf, and I think something else. I think a Kawai. And those sounds on that virtual piano are
They sound
excellent.
great. Yeah.
They're excellent. And you can futz with them. You can adjust them.
Yeah.
But they are very good sounds. But if
We
you're
love Roland.
if you're a traveling musician, you hate it because it weighs a goddamn ton.
Yeah.
So here you go.
Yeah. If you're a traveling musician who has to cart your own shit around.
That's right.
So
it's heavy.
I bet the tuba players like, I wish they could get me, a
some kind of digital instrument that was made out of carbon fiber.
A mouthpiece.
You know what a
and
tuba player's
mini
always
keys.
thinking about? Why didn't I play flute?
Right. Yeah. Or alto sax. There's something simple. Yeah. And small.
Those things are. It changed. It changed the whole. Some of the strings, that virtual orchestra thing that they have. It's not cheap, but man, they sure get probably almost right on, 98% right on. There's certain things, and most people will never know that.
Yeah. Is 90% good enough, or does it have to be in the high 90s?
Well,
because
for me-
I'm not going to know, but you are.
No, you won't know.
Yeah.
You won't know. I'll know. I have a problem with certain one. Now there's a new Casio that is so damn cheap. The keyboard is just like an acoustic piano.
Huh.
It's got great piano sounds in it, and it weighs about 20 to 25 pounds. You
Come
can
on.
walk in with it
Yeah.
under your arm. But the best thing about it, it's a great controller. So if you put stuff in a rack or
Sure.
something like that, you just bring in your little rack, put it up.
Yeah.
So
You're in business.
I have a Yamaha S90 that I play all the time, and it is heavy. It is heavy. And as I get older, each year I keep saying, this is not good.
I don't need all these keys. Make a shorter one.
Yeah. But I've watched that whole thing change. The same way the whole recording industry changed. In
And it's
my
still
book,
evolving.
I'll tell you a funny story. I'm at MI, and one kid said, how was it when you first started, Mr. Randy? So I put my finger up. I said, mono.
Yeah.
And he went, and everybody looked at him. And I said, what's the matter? He says, my dad had that.
What are you talking about? It's the kissing
I
disease.
said,
he was off school for 4 weeks.
And I said, boy, I'm up the creek now.
Yeah.
And I had to explain,
Yeah.
MI, for our listeners, is Musicians Institute. It's a school, a group of
highly
schools
overrated school
here in Los
Los
Angeles.
Angeles.
Yeah. We want to be respectful of your time, and it's doggone hot out here.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we got to get the JRs.
And so before long, we're going to have to put ourselves in a refrigerator. But I do want to say that if you guys haven't seen the book, you've heard these hands. Once again, you have indeed heard those hands. They are the hands of Don Randi. He has played on thousands of recordings from, you name it.
Yeah, just name it.
There was just a period of time where music that was recorded in Los Angeles. And when it was recorded in Los Angeles, there were a very small group, an elite group of hitmen who could come in and get a recording done and get it finished under budget.
Yeah, there you go.
And that group of professionals played on practically everything that was on the radio. Pete and I have amused ourselves by tuning into, a classic radio station and just driving down here to Los Angeles, between Los Angeles and San Francisco, and we'll go with the streak. How many songs were recorded by the Wrecking Crew? And we could go all damn day.
The other day, I was listening to K-Earth on a Saturday. And 7 in a row.
Yeah.
I played on every one of them.
Wow.
You know, and you think back, when we were doing all those hits, we didn't know.
Sure.
We were
just working.
We were paying for a living to have a family and to take care of our family.
Yep.
And we didn't stop to say, was that a hit? No, that was not.
Yeah.
Next, you know.
To give context to our listeners, you guys worked every day. You were musical tradesmen. You were the best.
One week I did 26 different dates.
Wow. In a single week.
And I arranged 4 of them.
So this is for our listeners. Let's say you're a framer. And you've got your tool belt on, and you're building houses, and you build a row of houses. You could build half of Santa Monica.
Sure.
All you knew was that you were showing up to work every day.
Yeah.
You worked hard every day. You barely got to see your family.
And
for
when someone
years in a
called,
row.
you said yes.
You said yes. You showed up. You did the date.
Yeah.
And then people go, oh, yeah, did you, how many records did you play? Who knows?
You know, you just said something extremely interesting, because my wife and I got in a big argument, something with one of our kids. I don't even remember which one. And she just turned around, and I was livid with her because I didn't understand the situation. And she said, well, where the hell were you? And I had to shut up because I wasn't there. I was too busy in the studio day after day, and it was 7 days a week sometimes.
Yeah.
I remember there was a 3-month period one time where it was almost round the clock.
Yeah.
It didn't stop. It just didn't stop.
Wow.
And thank God it happened then. I would have done the same thing all over again if it happened again, you know. But you don't realize it.
That's how you get called.
Sure.
Is because you continue to do it. Yeah.
Sure.
And when you continue to do it for decades, that's how you get called a legend.
Yeah.
So we are with the legendary.
In my spare time.
I've gone ahead and said it.
Spare time.
Don Randi. And Don, we love you and we appreciate you. And thank you so much for all the good music. And thank you for sitting with us today.
Oh, my pleasure. I enjoyed this. It was fun.
All right.
Yes.
Does that mean you're coming back?
Absolutely.
Okay, we're coming back in September when Louis is here.
Oh, great. We'll have some fun then.
Okay,
Sure.
I'm going to send him an email and I'm going to say, hey, you're already booked.
Do you have any Louis' new stuff? Did he send you any of his new CDs?
Not yet.
Oh, tell him to. They're terrific.
Okay.
Yeah. They're really good.
I really am thankful for Aroma for hosting us today. Those guys are fantastic, and they've always been great every time we've come here. So thank you very much to Aroma in Studio City. If you guys are in L.A., for whatever reason, you have to come here. The food, and I'm not lying, the food is fantastic.
Get the Eggs Benedict.
Get the Eggs Benedict, get the taco ceviche, shrimp ceviche, get all of it.
Yeah. That south of the border omelet that you had was delicious, too.
Delicious.
So, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, go check out You've Heard These Hands. It's a book by Don Randi, R-A-N-D-I, and if you haven't seen the book, you should see it. You should get a history lesson. You're going to love him almost as much as we do.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah.
If you're a voter and you're voting in the Grammys, Good Jazzy Vibrations, vote for that. That's our new CD.
Good Jazzy Vibrations.
Good Jazzy Vibrations.
Yes.
Hal Blaine is on it. A bunch of your friends are on it.
Yeah.
The Brian Wilson loves it.
Oh, yeah.
That's the endorsement we need right there. For sure.
Terrific. Don Randi, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much.